The Trinity is one of the most argued upon doctrines of all time. One of the reasons being that it's highly complicated and sounds very illogical. But when dealing with an infinite God, you don't expect your brain to be able to wrap around the level of his existence.
You cannot fathom the very intellect that is before you because your brain is so primitive.
To understand the Trinity, we need to understand three concepts. God is one, exists as three distinct persons, and each of these persons carries the full nature of God. The word Trinity comes from tri-unity. And though it is not mentioned in the Bible, we can draw scriptural backing for its claim. Firstly, let's establish that God is one. This can be easily seen by Deuteronomy 6 verse 4 and it should be emphasized by Jesus in Mark chapter 12 verse 29. Next, let's establish that God exists as more than one person. We can easily see this by 1 John 5 verse 7 and Genesis 1 verse 26. And to put the final nail in the coffin, the word Elohim, which is used to refer to God in the Old Testament, is a plural word and is used more than 2,500 times, compared to a single form Eloah, which is only used 70 times in the Old Testament. Next, we need to establish that each person of the Godhead carries the full nature of God. We'll be considering the full nature of God as having omniscience, omnipotence, and omnipresence. We can establish the Father's omniscience by Psalm 147 verse 5, Matthew 11 verse 27, and 1 John chapter 3 verse 20. We can establish his omnipotence from Jeremiah 32:17 and Genesis 18:14, and his omnipresence from Proverbs 15:3 and Jeremiah 23 verse 24. When it comes to the Son, things are much more complicated. This is due to the dual nature of the person of Christ. Because Jesus was fully man and fully God, he didn't always show omniscience, omnipresence, and omnipotence while here on earth. But after his resurrection, according to Matthew chapter 28 verse 18, it is clear that he is all-powerful. Hebrews chapter 1 verse 3 shows that Jesus is the brightness of God's glory and the express image of his person. This helps us to understand that Jesus carries the full divine nature of God's person. To understand this more, I implore us to read the whole of Hebrews chapter 1. 1 Corinthians 2:10 shows us that the Holy Spirit knows all that God knows. And since we've established that God knows all things, therefore the Spirit knows all things. He is also omnipresent from Psalm 139 verse 7. And throughout the Bible, for one to be empowered, they need the Holy Spirit to come upon them. So it is clear that the Holy Spirit is the very power of God. I'd like us to understand that the three persons of the Godhead aren't stated in order of authority but order of revelation unto men. I want to use analogies, but in the case of the Trinity, I think it's best I don't due to the complexity of it. But why is the Trinity important? It seems complicated and causes strife. Well, the Trinity is simply a doctrine that helps us dictate the nature of God from the Bible. Just like a scientist who draws a theory from what they see or what they observe, the doctrine of the Trinity is a theory that we discern from the scriptures. And though we may not be always able to wrap our heads around it, it helps us understand God's intentional plan for salvation.